Good afternoon. You're listening to the new WCEG Network on WCEGTalkRadio.com. Click your live stream tab or watch us live on your smart TV, YouTube at WCEG Network. I am Celeste Giordano, your show host, along with my co-host, Sara Poe, and this is the Global Legacy and Wealth Building for the next hour. We're the worldwide community empowerment group where we speak life into the community. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and on Instagram at WCEG_talk_radio and at WCEG Network. And last but not least, our disclaimer, the topics and opinions are those of the show host and guest and not WCEG Network. Thank you for your continued support. And thank you, Penny Rogers and our WCEG Network for this opportunity and platform to serve our community. And Sara and I are very grateful to start the third year, or the third season, I should say, with Global Legacy and Wealth Building. And Sara, we have an amazing lineup this year, and we have a great guest today. And I would just like to say Happy New Year to you and to WCEG Network and to our guest and all of our audience. So Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. And it's starting out good.
Absolutely. It's starting out good. And Sara, we have an amazing show lined up with our special guest, Amy Reese with ARC. And I'm super excited for us to interview her today. And I hope that you had a wonderful Christmas holiday and a Happy New Year.
Oh, I did. How about you, Amy?
I absolutely did. Happy New Year to everyone. Off to a good and busy start today.
Absolutely. And, and it's just something about starting a new year and turning that page of 365 days of blank pages to be able to write that story and to have a clean slate. I mean, I don't know about you, but I look forward to a clean slate, not only on January, but also every day we get up. Don't we really have a clean slate every day that we get up and we have an opportunity to give back and to serve and be the best that we can be?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. So Sara, before we get started, why don't you tell our audience just a little bit about you? I'm going to interview you from 5:30 to 6 today on taxes and things of that nature. And then we're going to get started with Amy Reese here of ARC Business Solutions from 5 to 5:30. So why don't you just tell the audience a little bit about you, and then I'll tell them a little bit about me, and we'll get into our interview.
Okay. I'm Sara Poe with Poe's Accounting Services. I'm a CPA, a tax professional. We have a small accounting office where we do pretty much everything for the small business owner. I find that they need help. And I know when I started my business, I wore many hats, and some days those hats didn't come off, and some days those hats never worked, right? So as a small business owner, they need help. And that's what I try to do. I try to be a helper or a companion or a teacher or whatever they might need to get through that beginning, middle, end.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate that. Should be an exciting tax season for you this year, and we look forward to hearing any changes and what's on the agenda for 2023. And I am Celeste Giordano with CelesteGiordano.com. I'm a master sales strategist and a business mentor, and I help business entrepreneurs, direct sales teams, and corporations exponentially increase sales and profit through lead generation, building relationships, and accountability. And before we introduce our friend and colleague, Amy Reese, I forgot to mention about our Georgia Bulldogs, the University of Georgia, going back to winning the national championship. So, woof, 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 woof.
Amy, we're just a little bit blurry-eyed today.
I know it. I was up very late last night. And Amy, I believe you said that you graduated from the University of Georgia. So, we would love to hear your take on that before I introduce you and your business.
Oh my goodness. Well, University of Georgia is known for its a very robust, to put it lightly, football season. And so this year has not disappointed, and just really excited. Although it's been many years since I attended. I'm not going to say how many years, because I don't want to put my age out there like that, but it's been a minute. Let's just put it that way. But it's always exciting, to be able to see, your home team to win and to excel and to be named. I think they're now talking about calling it a dynasty, which I think is pretty amazing. But yeah, absolutely. Congratulations to my Georgia Bulldogs. Couldn't be more excited and more proud.
Absolutely.
And
Sarah?
I love the answer that the defensive player gave today about the dynasty. He says it takes us all. It started with other people. We've worked through it, and the people coming after us will continue that. It's not just us. And I love that he said that.
I do too. Awesome.
And was that today?
Yeah, they interviewed some of the people before they took off on the plane.
All right. And I believe they're landing as our show just started. And as we were talking in the pre-chat a little bit before this, one of the things that I loved as a business consultant and a coach, I loved when they interviewed Kirby Smart and what he said, what is your strategy? What is your game plan? And he said, we are going to be aggressive all the way through. And they were definitely aggressive all 4 quarters of that game. So congratulations to the University of Georgia. It takes a whole team of people to do it. It's not any one person, and they just did a phenomenal job. So with that, let's get started and let's introduce our special guest, Sarah. So Amy Reese is a multiple award-winning business growth strategist and the CEO of ARC Business Solutions, a certified women's owned and operated consulting firm that helps small businesses grow by securing contracts with federal governments and major corporations. I can't wait to dive into that. ARC helps businesses obtain relevant certifications that will enable them to win contracts set aside specifically for them. ARC also provides the foundational resources and instructions needed as clients begin to embark on starting and growing in business. After spending over 20 years as a corporate executive working with leaders of major corporations and government agencies, Amy now leverages her experience in strategic sales, collaboration, and relationship development to benefit small and mid-sized businesses who are seeking opportunities to grow. The strategic technique Amy uses has been instrumental in her success, as demonstrated by the attainment of revenue growth for her clients in the millions. Since less than 1% of small businesses utilize their strategies and resources that would enable them to grow in the federal and corporate marketplace, Amy's mission is to dramatically increase that percentage by empowering the underserved business owner, thereby shattering the 1%. Sarah, please join me in welcoming Amy Reese to our show today. Thank you, Amy.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me. Good to see your face again, Celeste.
Absolutely. I think I saw you in December at the Gwinnett Chamber Small Business Awards. It was so good to see you because we probably haven't seen each other since before COVID. And you are a dear friend and colleague with a friend of Sara and I's, Brigitte Hofeler, and we are just so grateful and honored to have you on the show here today.
Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So Sara, would you like to kick us off with some questions for Miss Amy, please?
Yeah. So what are the bulk or large scale opportunities for being certified as a woman-owned business?
So one of the things that I like to talk about is how small businesses can grow by purposely choosing not to necessarily compete in the general, I call it the general marketplace, right? Which is the marketplace that everybody else competes in. And from the intro that Celeste read in my bio, it talks about less than 1% of small businesses competing in these federal and corporate marketplaces, which basically means that as a small business owner, you can be a vendor to sell your product or service to the federal government or major corporations. But statistics have not moved when it comes to less than 1% of small businesses competing in the space. Well, my background is over 20 something years of sales and corporate development. And so my entire career has been going after bulk opportunities. And what that means is, that means going after opportunities where you're going after major contracts with either the federal government, and there are many, many hundreds of agencies of the federal government, so that's a blanket term, or choosing certain major corporations that you want to sell your product or service to. And so those are bulk opportunities. And so my past life was one that I never competed or even sold in the general marketplace, or what many would call the B2C or business to consumer marketplace. I've got 20 something years of selling to other governmental agencies or major corporations. And so I took those strategies from when I spent 20 something years with major corporations, where I earned, opportunities in the millions. And I moved those strategies over to support the small business owner and to help them understand that they can really grow their business exponentially if they compete in the under-tapped federal or corporate marketplace, because so many small businesses, they're intimidated or confused, or they don't know where to go, how to start. And so the purpose of ARC Business Solutions is to help small businesses be able to go after those bulk or large opportunities, and not what I call the onesie twosies, because we find that they spend just as much time going after those as they do going after the large opportunities.
Interesting. So I'm just going to use me as an example. I'm a woman-owned business, right? But typically I go after the small business owner here because that's more what I'm known for. So let's just say I did this and I got into that. I don't know where my business would fall with the big corporations, right? Because they're going to have my type of people on staff.
Right.
So
go ahead. I'm sorry.
So you know what I'm asking there.
Right. I think what you're asking, and correct me if I'm wrong, is where do you fit in? Like the products and services that you offer, is it something that the federal government or major corporations use? Do they use CPAs and accountants? And, do they have the huge answer to that question is absolutely. I think that most people don't understand that when we talk about the federal government, and this holds true even for major corporations, but the federal government, they don't make anything. They literally buy everything. So whether it's training employees, which we know that the federal government literally is the world's largest purchaser of goods and services. And number two, the world's largest employer, by the way. And so when you talk about all of the hundreds of entities, those are like separate corporations with their own missions and budgets. And so absolutely 9 times out of 10, the product or service that a small business owner offers is bought by the federal government, different agencies of the federal government. And a lot of times where we find that they can really leverage their product or services in teaming or working in subcontracting opportunities where they're teaming with larger corporations who win contracts a lot of times in the billions, if you can wrap your head around that, and you're looking for opportunities to be able to fill in those gaps. So there may be a geographical gap that you're filling, or there may be a service level gap that you can fill as being a part of that team to deliver the product or service. So yeah, obviously, just about everything. So whether you're a window washer or whether you do IT or teach classes or whatever it is that you do, 9 times out of 10, those products and services are purchased by the federal government. And there's a certain percentage of it, 23% to be exact, that is supposed to, by law, go to small businesses where they carved out a certain percentage of the fiscal budget, which is on average, the budget is about $1.2 trillion. And so they carve out 23% for small businesses. You're talking about $250 billion of products and services that is supposed to be going to small business owners, but we're not leveraging the opportunities to sell in those places.
Wow. See, that's huge. I never really understood all that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so, and I was going to ask a question, but I think my question will be better answered in another question. So I'm going to pass right now. What is going after these opportunities better? Why does going after these opportunities better for small business owners?
Yeah. So the reason why is this, right? So Sara, you mentioned when we first started in the intro, you mentioned how we as small business owners, we wear so many hats. We are customer service, the janitor, the IT, the CEO, we do a little bit of everything, right? And so when we are already overtaxed and overstretched, and we make a decision to compete in the marketplace where everybody else, 99%, right, compete, then you are really kind of doing yourself a disservice, because you're working so hard to win one opportunity when you can work just as hard, okay, or not, maybe a little harder, but guess what will happen? You win one opportunity in the federal space, or one opportunity with a major corporation, where now you're not winning one customer, you're winning a bulk of customers, because you are, you may be delivering a product or service where you are, where it might be equal to 10 of your customers or more. And so, yeah, you had to build relationships, you had to provide a quote, you had to make some calls, you had to send some emails, but we do that anyway with the B2C or with the individual clients that we go after. And so what I'm telling small business owners is to really think outside of the box, so that you can really stop working so hard. Yeah, it's going to be intimidating. It's going to be a little confusing unless you have someone who can really kind of hold your hand through the process. But it's not impossible. And I've seen it. This is 7 years that we've been at this, helping small businesses. And it is life-changing. And talk about legacy building. It can literally change the trajectory of your life and your company's life, if you utilize those strategies and stop competing, or I don't want to say stop competing in the general marketplace, but I will say at least put some attention over in some of these into the federal or corporate marketplace, because you're working equally as hard.
Okay. Good answer.
So I'm going to ask my question now, because I think it might lead up to the third one. But so I take it there's a website that you can go to see contracts. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So, and I know one of the questions about being certified women-owned business. Do you have to be a certified women-owned business, or is it just a big added plus to be a certified women-owned business?
It's an added plus, right? So I'll break that down for you, because there are several certifications, right? We work with veterans. That's another one that we, our veterans, they serve, they put their lives on the line, they come home, they want to leverage their skills by opening up their own business. And guess what? They should get priority when it comes to opportunities in the federal marketplace. If anyone should get priority, it should be our veterans. That percentage is less than 1% also. So we work with veterans to make sure they get certified, and to make sure that their entity, not them as an individual, but their entity is recognized as a certified entity. Same thing we do for women, same thing we do for minorities. So what we do is we talk to individuals. Some people just go to our website and they find what they need and they check out like an Amazon site, whereas others have the opportunity to schedule a consultation. And when they schedule a consultation, we can really talk to them and kind of help them understand, first by understanding which marketplace best suits them, because we need to determine where do you want to sell? Who are you selling to first, right? And then after we determine that, then we can determine which certifications you should leverage in order to make your entry point even better. So Celeste, to answer your question, certifications is a huge golden ticket, pretty much, right? But you've got to use that ticket. So that means you've got to do some work, right? But yes, it is definitely something. When I talk to women-owned or any of those underserved, we call them underserved populations, women, right, minorities, veteran, we always tell them absolutely go after whatever certifications your company qualifies for, because it's only going to help the journey easier, help make the journey easier.
So Sara, I want to let's feed on this a little bit here. So in other words, for certification, is that a national certification and then you do that, or is this a certification with just your company? Can you talk a little bit about that, please?
That's a really good question. So these are national certifications, right? So they're not, our company provides the technical assistance, because what we know, and the reason why we launched, is that the process is very confusing. It's complicated. It is sometimes you feel defeated, and I can speak this because prior to starting ARC Business Solutions, I was a partner in another company. And my goal was to grow the company. I was in charge of the business development, and I grew the company the way I knew how to grow the company. And that's going after big stuff, right? And so I had to learn that. So to answer your question, no. So these are all certifications that are national. And it depends on the marketplace. So we know the woman-owned small business certification, that particular one, which is the WOSB, is administered by the SBA. There's also the Women's Business Enterprise certification, which is more of a corporate certification. That's administered through WeBank. There is the Veterans certifications that's administered and approved through the Veterans Administration. There is the Minority Business Enterprise certification that is through the National Minority Supplier Development Council. There are many. And so they're not our certifications. We provide the technical assistance so that small businesses who get confused and don't really want to handle the process on their own, or they're afraid because we've seen so many rejections. We just had a gentleman, this was last month, who we finally got his veteran certification completed, and he wrote us a review and said that he had been trying for 3 years and we got it done for him in less than 4 months.
Wow.
So it is because he tried on his own. And, some people can make it through, and some people don't. And what we find is that small business owners don't have the time to be bogged down with the complexities of that process. And so that's kind of where we come into play. But we also provide trainings and workshops to help them leverage those certifications. So, this is not a part at the end of the rainbow. It's not one of those things where we say, oh, you go get certified and now you've got a pretty logo to put on your website and on your email signature. That's not what it's for. It is for you to leverage so that you can really win and grow your business.
So as part of that certification that you help them with that, or is that something that's additional for your guidance and wisdom?
No, we have, okay, well, I think that's two-part question. We do with the certifications on the client's behalf, and then we also do workshops. So we have for example, we've got a workshop coming up in February. That is our federal registration certification workshop. And basically it's 4 hours of instruction, 4 hours of pouring in and helping you understand from the foundational level what you need to do in order to begin to compete in this space all the way through. And we provide checklists and we provide next steps. And while you do all the things that we recommend that you do from the workshop, we actually complete your federal registration or your certification for you, because we don't want you to get bogged down in that stuff. We want you to go and utilize the strategies that we talked about in the workshop and start putting that stuff into effect, because it takes some time to build that up and to get comfortable in it. So we don't leave you alone in the process. There's always touch points throughout the process where we help you along the way.
Well, and that makes sense, Sarah, because, the thing of it is so many times people, they don't want to invest in themselves, their businesses. They want to try to do everything themselves. And as well as I do in my consulting business, do what you do best and hire everything else out. Right. Go and get that certification and hire somebody so they can do that work for you and get it done. But you go do what you do best, and that is building relationships and growing your business. So
absolutely. And to me, it sounds like an amazing thing to do. I have heard that I've had a couple women who own tax offices like me, and they went through the women-owned business and they just told me what a nightmare it was. So I'm like, oh, I'm never doing that.
Yeah. It is not fun. It isn't. And I hate that, because, and honestly, that's how we launched, to be honest with you. I launched ARC Business Solutions. This is a whole nother story. I won't get into it, but ARC Business Solutions was supposed to be doing the same thing I was doing when I was in corporate, working with corporations, working with C-suite corporations, and just doing it on a consultant level myself, because I was the one who had created these relationships and cultivated them, right? And so I was going to move away from major corporations, form my own entity and do it on my own. And when I started the process with the other company that I had partnered with, I thought, small business owners need this. It is absolutely ridiculous just how convoluted the process can be. And that's just a certification step, never mind navigating what to do next, right? Because that's a whole nother thing. So that's the reason why we have the workshops. And one other thing I do want to say is that it's not just for women, it's not just for veterans. I will tell you guys, our very first clients didn't fit into any of those categories. Our very first clients were 2 Caucasian males. Those were our first clients that when we've launched 7 years ago, because they wanted to compete. And again, these statistics, it's not just women or minorities or veterans. It's small businesses, if you run a small business and you are not looking to compete in the federal marketplace, there may not be a certification that you can attach yourself to, but there's still a 23% set aside as a small business owner that you qualify for by competing in the space.
And just having the certification gives you an extra plus or an extra leg up or something along those lines.
It does. Well, what it does is there are certain contracts, a certain percentage of contracts that's set aside just for those groups.
Okay.
They call them set aside. So if you you can go. So if you're certified, you can go after any contract opportunity, and those that's set aside just for women. So you can go after all, and so that's the benefit of it. Whereas if you don't meet any of those set aside categories, right? If you're not in a set aside category, if you're not a woman, if you're not a minority or a veteran, yeah, you go after those contract opportunities. The opportunities are still vast, but they can't go after contracts that set aside just for women or just for veterans or just for minorities. That's the difference.
So
Absolutely.
do they have certifications for nonprofits?
No, a nonprofit cannot be certified. There is no ownership in nonprofits,
Okay.
right? Ownership
Right.
is, right? The founder is usually the executive director or the director, then there's a board. So no one owns a nonprofit. So there is no way to be able to check to see what the status of who is the leader of that entity. So they're no, but we work with nonprofits by helping them get set up in the federal space. So we also have nonprofits who attend our workshops. They just don't necessarily qualify for the certifications.
Okay, so that was my second question. Do they have federal government things that pertain to nonprofits that they can? Yeah. I get excited because I'm always about to burst when I talk about this stuff, because I wish that people really knew how much opportunity was out there, how much money is floating around out there, and it's your tax dollars. It's your tax dollars. So if you own or lead a nonprofit, absolutely. Do you know how much money goes that the government gives for different initiatives and different missions that they have based on? And again, don't think of the federal government in the way like you were saying the term federal government. We're talking about Department of Health and Human Services, the Veterans Administration, Housing and Urban Development. There are hundreds of federal agencies, and they all have their own individual goals and budgets and missions, right, that they support. And they utilize a lot of nonprofits by giving them grants to help them to meet those initiatives or those missions. That's the answer I wanted. Okay. Very good. Very good. Now
with that.
Yeah, you know where I'm going with this.
Yeah. I love it.
We have a few more minutes, so we can go over a little bit past 5:30. Sarah, do you have another question for Amy?
No, I just need to go sign up and talk to her.
Please do. I love it.
So I think we talked about how to leverage certification to increase our chance of winning. Did we talk about that, Amy?
Yeah.
Or no?
Yeah, definitely. Again, we talked about, there are different types of certifications. We talked about how, the process, the best thing about using a third-party agency like ARC is that we literally take care of everything for you. You're not having to worry about whatever we need from you is usually the basic stuff. Everything else, whether it's compliance letters or letters of explanations, is so much to the process that we handle all of that for you. So you go, we want you to go and be working on the stuff that we recommend that you work on, so that you can really make a difference when you get that approval.
Okay, Absolutely. Before we have you tell a little bit about your company and it's in the chat, I believe, with Amy Reese with ARC Business Solutions. But also, if our audience and listeners have any questions, please put it in the comment section there. And before we end, we'll get these questions to Amy. Amy, where can I go after the opportunity? You know, where can we go?
After you're certified or after you're registered? Like, say, for example, you've got your business registered in the federal space.
Yes.
You are a registered vendor, you're certified. Yes, there are a couple of different platforms. SAM.gov is one. There's some strategy. They rolled out a beta site about a year ago. And so we cover all of that in the workshop, how to utilize that SAM.gov to find those opportunities. I talk a lot about teaming opportunities. I'm a big proponent of partnerships. That's the world I came from. I believe you can do more together. And so partnerships and teaming is something that that's the main strategy that I teach in the workshop. And then there are some other things that you can access so that you can to make sure that your company is showing up in the best way possible in those platforms, so that when those vendor procurement officers, when they're looking for work to be done, and also they have direct source awards. So it's not always about you having to bid either. They just find you and send you an email or a call and say, hey, you're in the database, I need whatever. And, you know, if it's a small enough opportunity, and I'll put this out there, small to the federal government, where they say, oh, it's not worth the contract, a bidding process is $250,000 or less. So anything that's $250,000 or less, they don't even bother with the bidding process. They just go find you in the database.
Oh, that's interesting.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
So Amy, tell our audience a little bit about your company, your website, social media. You said you have a workshop coming up, I think, in February. Anything you would like to get out there to our audience, and we definitely would, Sarah, we need to have Amy back, and we need to dig in a little bit deeper with this. So Amy, tell our audience and listeners how they can get a hold of you, what you've got going on, please.
Absolutely. So ARC Business Solutions, we are a certified woman-owned and operated consulting company. We literally help small businesses compete in the federal and corporate marketplace. We help them leverage various certifications, depending on what certifications they might qualify for. We walk them through the process. Really, what I tell people is we provide the foundational resources, because one of the other things that I learned in my journey as a small business owner is how unprepared a lot of small businesses are when it comes to navigating a lot of spaces. Like, we know that small businesses know, or small business owners, they know what they know, right? So if they're electricians, they're great at it. If they're IT people, they're great at it, but they may not be so great with navigating the corporate structure so they can find the right person to talk to, or sending the proper type of email, or even making sure they're showing up correctly so that they don't look like they're running a side hustle. So we kind of hang out in what we call the foundation to help small businesses understand that really it's how you show up, and we really promote excellence on that level. And so that's kind of the gist of what we do. Foundational. We believe that the foundation is where it's at. If you don't have a strong foundation, your growth strategy will crumble, because a lot of times what ends up happening is small businesses, they want to start, I call it the roof or the walls. You know, you can't start with the roof or the walls when you are building. Everybody knows that you have to have a firm foundation, and that's
foundation.
Yeah, for sure. And so arcanswers.com and ARC Business Solutions on all sites, whether it's Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, is ARC Business Solutions. Again, arcanswers.com. You can call our toll-free customer service line, 888-42-ANSWERS is the phone number. And of course, the workshop is February 18th from 10 until 2. And there's a link for that.
All right, is that in Atlanta?
It is live and online. We service clients from New York to New Mexico. And you know what's funny, Celeste? Like, literally, we have clients literally all over the United States. And we started before COVID. We pivoted to primarily online in middle of 2019. So when COVID hit, we didn't skip a beat. We were all 100% online. And 2020 was one of our busiest years because our reach was, is unlimited. So anywhere in the US where you're located, you can join us.
That is awesome.
Great
That is
news.
amazing. For our listening audience here at WCE Talk Radio, you need to get to know Amy Reese and ARC Business Solutions and go to her website, look her up. You offer complimentary consultations or
We
phone
do.
calls, and
Absolutely. 30
ha-
minutes. We love
have a conversation with them. And Amy, I know you have another show or
consultation at 5:45.
at 5:45. So we're going to get you off here in time. But Sara and I just can't thank you enough for just a wealth of knowledge, the gold nuggets that you dropped here today, just in the short period of time. Any closing comments, Sara?
It's the women-owned business thing has always been in the back of my mind, but I've heard horror stories, so I've never done it. And then I just don't know that world. I mean, the government world and all that. So I'm just like, I don't have time to learn this because I'm one who likes to understand everything so I know what I'm doing, right? But having somebody like you to guide me, I think would make all the difference in the world.
It is
So
a
I'm
game
solid.
changer. Yeah, I'm happy. I hope you do. It's a game changer, honestly. And we don't leave you. We've got clients. Brigida, I just had another consultation with a follow-up client consultation with Brigida yesterday. And Brigida she came through our workshop, I think back in 2017, and she did a refresher a couple of months ago. So no, we don't leave you. We continue to provide updated strategies too, because things always change. So absolutely, we'd love to chat with you.
Absolutely. And, Amy, you are a wealth of knowledge. I mean, you are on point here today. And without a shadow of a doubt, Sara and I definitely look forward to having a chat with you. And our audience needs to get out there and have a chat with you. So thank you so much for your knowledge and your wisdom and sharing it with the WCEG Talk Radio community today. And Happy New Year to you.
Thank you. Happy New Year. Thank you guys so much. I always enjoy it. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. You
Thank
have a
you.
great day.
Thank you. You
Bye-bye.
too. Bye-bye.
Bye. Wow, Sara.
You just don't always know what you don't know.
Exactly. And I've known, Amy's been a part of some networking that you and I both have been to over the course of the last 6 or 7 years. And I saw her at the Gwinnett Chamber here in December. She was up for an award as well as I was. And it was so great to see her because COVID, you forget, some of the people that you used to mingle with. And then we sort of stayed away from that. And now we're getting back out into in-person events and you're connecting with these people. And as she said, collaboration, camaraderie, and there's a website out there for these government contracts, and don't try to do it yourself. If you're serious about it, you need to hire a professional and let the professional do it for you, and then think big and go big.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Well, we're ready for the second half of the show. And this show, we're going to talk, Sara, about what's happening in the tax world. We're into a new year. As I said, we have a clean slate. So I'm sure people are starting to trickle in. The phone calls are starting to come to the CPA and the accounting offices and everything. So, let's dive in about what's going to happen, what's new this year, what people need to be doing, maybe some dates and things of this nature. And so I'm going to start out with what forms are being mailed out in January. That's a simple one.
That's a good place to start, right?
Right.
So in January, the W-2s, 1099s, those type of things go out, like your 1095Cs, A, B, and C, your insurance. Unfortunately, your brokerage statements don't typically come out till March, but just about every other form you're going to need for your tax return, your Social Security, information will come out in January. They have to be in the mail no later than January 31. Okay. A lot of people no longer mail those; they email them because it's a cost savings to them, right? To not have to mail this stuff. I know that when we do W-2s and 1099s for our small businesses, we like to email things. So if they don't get it or the emails change, it's much easier to realize they didn't get it because you get a rejection, right? If you mail something, you may not know for 6 weeks if they get it or not, right? Because the mail gets returned or that sort of thing. But you just need to be on the lookout for coming into your email. Let's just say you got a refund last year from the state of Georgia. You have to go to the Department of Revenue's website to get your 1099 for your refund. A lot of people don't know that. Unemployment, you have to go to the Department of Revenue's website to get your unemployment information. Okay, all that stuff is now out there on the web, on the internet, whatever you want to call that, to get that information, because people don't have the band. They don't want to spend that money on that. They want to spend money on salaries and benefits and insurance and all that other stuff. But that's the biggest thing getting ready to happen this month with the new stuff coming out.
Okay. Now, what about for small businesses and entrepreneurs and people that have 1099 contracts? They have to have all that out. It used to be in February, but it's in the last few years, it's January 31st,
It's
right?
January 31st, and you've got to have it e-filed to the Social Security Administration also that day.
Okay.
You can mail it, but they would prefer you e-file it. There's companies that like Intuit can e-file, or there's 1099 companies that you can do all that through and e-file it. You get a confirmation that they've received it. So you're not worried about, oh, did they get this stuff? Or if something happens, you've got that confirmation that it was received by them. So that saves you some penalties and interest down the road if something goes wrong. But that's
Absolutely.
the perfect way to do that.
Absolutely. Before we get into some more questions, Sarah, just since we're in the second half of the show, please tell our audience that are listening, maybe some people joined a little bit later, name of your company, how they can get a hold of you, please.
Okay. I'm Sara Poe with Poe's Accounting Services. We're in Decula, Georgia. You can reach us at 770-545-8841 or www.poecpas.com. poecpas.com.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much for doing that. And we also have it in the chat. And if you have any questions during the show, put them in there and we'll answer as many questions as we can. So let's talk about Venmo, Cash Apps, and PayPal. Will they be sending out 1099s this year? But how are they processed?
Okay, so the beginning last year, the Internal Revenue Service, in all their wisdom, decided that anybody who received $600 or more through Venmo, Cash App, or PayPal was going to get a 1099K, right? Well, we all know that that's not always income, right? So all these 1099s were supposed to be going out in the month of January for these. They're still going to go out because all of these companies have set their processes in motion. They've got their software, they've got everything going. But the government, in all their wisdom, decided the last week of December that we weren't going to have to use them. Okay. So what I would suggest that anybody who gets these is to make sure they're categorizing your money correctly. Because next year when you get these, you're not going to get a reprieve from this. So you've got a year to get these items fixed, right? So let's just say I receive Venmo money, right? And it's somebody paid me for taxes through Venmo, right? That's income. Let's just say I paid a lady to clean my house, or let's just flip that and say I got paid to clean somebody's house. That's income. But if I paid somebody to clean a house, that's income to them. Venmo would need to send them a 1099. Let's just say I bought a flower from somebody, right? And it's only $40. They should not get a 1099 for that. It has to be $600 or more. Let's just say you and I go to dinner and we split the bill. I pay you through Venmo. That's not income to you, right?
Right.
That was your cash that you spent. You're not earning income off of that, right? So you need to look at each individual transaction that's on these 1099s to, one, make sure they're done properly, and two, if it's not, to get it corrected so next year you're not having to do that. Because what's going to happen is there's two separate ways to fix this on your return, right? There's a form you can fill out to let the IRS know that this is done improperly, or you put all the income there and you do a separate line item for expenses to take that income off, right? I've seen people do it both ways. The form is typically the best, and all of a sudden I can't remember the name of the form. But you need to be working on that now, not when it's crunch time.
All right, so let me give you an example. So let's say an entrepreneur or somebody like this hires a contractor. They send them a 1099, but they pay them through PayPal. So do they get two 1099s?
They'll get two 1099s, yes. And one of those is double income. It's not true. Not only one of those is true income. So the income, the 1099 you got from me as a subcontractor is the one you would use. So then you need to let Venmo know, hey, I already got a 1099 for this. I don't need two.
That
Does that
seems
make
real. No, it sounds very confusing to be contacting them if somebody send them a 1099 and then PayPal sends them a 1099. How do you choose who they're going to call?
You should always use the one from the company that actually paid you, right?
Oh,
So if I
okay.
have subcontractors, I will send all my 1099s out. But if I paid them through Venmo or PayPal or Cash App, they'll get one from them also. And you don't want to put both of those in there because you've double plus your income. And you don't want to pay taxes on your income twice.
So if you were an entrepreneur and you paid somebody, an independent contractor through PayPal, should you let that independent contractor know this, that they should use yours and not use the PayPal, and that's on them?
Yes. I would let them know that. Yes.
Okay. And that's the way that the IRS looks at it, that they should use the contractor's 1099, not the PayPal's.
Right. So this is a year to fix all those issues because that's going to happen.
So let me ask you this. This is another good question. I say it's a good question. If I said it, it's got to be true. It's like if it's on the internet, it's true. So now you made me forget what I was going to ask you. So should that independent contractor notify PayPal and say, listen, I'm getting my 1099s from from a company that I do work for as an independent contractor. I do not want you to send me a 1099. Can you do that early where they don't do that? Or
well, we truly don't know how these companies have set all this up. You would hope that PayPal would ever see that it was a company that paid somebody and that they would not send out a 1099K for that. But we just don't know how that's going to work. So that's the reason why we've got a year to figure this out.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. I just, what's going to change next year? I mean, you're still going to get to, or how they're going to figure that out? Or is it something that you're just letting them know ahead of time that, listen, you don't owe me a 1099. It's coming from an independent contractor.
Like I said, I would wait till after that happens this month, and then I would take my time to fix it because I'm going to have clients call me. Guess what I got?
Right.
Two 1099s, right?
Right.
So if they're my client, I will fix it on their tax return because I will know how to prepare that. But an individual, this may be the time you need to start going to a paid tax professional.
Right. Very good.
Because they will know how to handle that on your tax return.
Absolutely. So we have a question here, Sarah.
Okay.
Is it a one-time payment of a total of 600 or more, or combined payments of 600 or more?
So if it's from one vendor, it could be combined of 600 or more.
Right. Absolutely. Okay, this is another great question. What is virtual currency or digital assets, and why is this important?
Well, the IRS has come to realize that they're losing a lot of taxes when it comes to virtual currency. So the past couple of years, they've asked a question, do you have virtual currency? And a lot of people don't truly understand what that is. So they say no. And then you start going through the paper, yeah, you do. All right. Coinbase is a really good company that does the paperwork well. You know, not all these virtual currencies, digital currency people do that. But my clients who do that, they pay extra for that wonderful paperwork, because you could have 300 or 400 transactions in this virtual currency world. And the IRS wants to see every single one of those. They want to know exactly what you're buying, selling, and using that virtual currency for, because a lot of that happens overseas and they want to be able to tax that information.
So Sarah, one of our questions in there. So we're talking cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, all of the
All
above.
that, all that. Yeah.
So, and what about all these people that are losing, like this FX, whatever, and all that?
So typically when an individual loses money buying and selling and trading, you can take up to a $3,000 loss per year. Okay. Now you can combine that with gains and sales to where everything nets to a $3,000 loss. So you will get that loss in there, but you could be taking that loss for the rest of your life if it's a big enough loss.
Right.
They're only going to give you $3,000 a year.
Well, what about these people losing millions of dollars?
They get $3,000 a year.
Wow. That's another whole subject sometime.
Yes.
Okay. So what is the mileage rate for 2023?
So I had to write that down because it changes every year. So for 2023, the business mileage is 65 and a half. Okay. Your medical mileage is 22 cents and your charitable mileage is 14 cents. A lot of people don't keep up with the last two. Not that it's in the big grand scheme of things, it's a lot of money, but let's just say you travel a lot for your charities. That's 14 cents a mile you're giving away.
Right.
You're claiming. Now, I will tell you, you need a mileage app.
Yes.
The IRS loves those third-party mileage apps. I've used MileIQ for years. Okay. You can put a lot of basic information in there. What charity were you working for? What were you doing? If you went to the doctor, what doctor? If you had parking or tolls. And for personal, it's one way. It's you swipe one way. For business, it's swipe to know. You can put the name of your client in there. It's an easy way to keep up with all that, right?
Right.
So I've had more people audited for their mileage, and they can't find the paperwork. It's typically 3 years after the tax return's done. I've got one client who put a lot of mileage in there, and he traveled all that mileage, but guess what? His basement flooded. He has no paperwork. You know what's going to happen? All that's going to be reversed. He's going to have to pay tax on all that mileage that he took. So if you've got it in a soft copy, like through email or a report, you've got it. You didn't lose anything. That water didn't damage that.
Well, the other thing, and I remember you saying this many years ago, Sarah, which I think is a great idea. Go get your oil changed December 1st or 31st or something like that. You got the mileage right there. At the end of the year, you just go get that oil changed and either, scan that receipt or that form or put it in the cloud or whatever. But that also lets you know where you started.
Right. And last year, our mileage went from January to the end of June. Then when gas prices went up July 1st, it changed. So when you're doing your taxes this year, you've got to tell your tax professional how many miles you had the first half and how many miles you had the second half. And don't say, just split it. Because they're going to look at you at the ceiling and go, yeah, that's not a right answer. You need to you need to look at that mileage log and say, I had 332 miles the first half of the year and 500 the second half of the year. Because if it's just split, what do you think that does? That's a huge red flag.
Yeah.
We don't want red flags. We want knowledgeable answers. Again, you can run a report in MileIQ that'll tell you exactly what it is.
So we've got about 7 minutes left, Sarah. And again, this is we could talk another whole show about this, and we will. What is happening with the 2020 unemployment issues?
Well, if you remember in 2021, when we did the returns for 2020, a lot of people got unemployment. And the federal government came out and said the first 10,200 would not be taxable. But and then it was up to each individual state. Well, in the state of Georgia, they took over 30 days in the middle of tax season to make that decision. Well, a lot of people had already filed tax returns, and the federal government said, we will go back and correct your tax return federally, but you have to amend your state one. Okay. So the federal government came out in December and said, we've corrected everyone we're going to correct. If you didn't get a correction, you need to now amend your taxes. So, they didn't fix every single tax return.
Right.
And when every tax professional probably did a little bit different. If I hadn't filed your return when this came out, we did not file until we knew exactly what was going to happen. Granted, you may have had to wait an extra 6 weeks, but I'd rather get it taken care of then than now going, okay, I need to check with every client that comes through my door this year and say, did you get your 2020 unemployment refund? And they're not going to remember. They couldn't even remember when they got rebates. You think they're going to remember this?
Well, I got another question about that. So we had a lot of people doing remote work. What can people do with this remote?
If you're a W-2 employee, there's nothing you can do. There's no tax deduction for that if you're W-2. If you're a Schedule C or an S Corp or that type of thing, there is things you can do, right?
Oh, right.
If you're a gig worker, you can take a home office, that type of thing. But you can only take a certain percentage depending on how big your office is. And what I tell people is, once you get your home office set up, take a picture of it. So if the IRS ever wants to see, you've got a picture up before you destroyed it. Because I can destroy an office better than anybody.
I like to see your floor right now.
Yeah, you would well look at the floor. But it's all pretty up here.
Yeah.
Down there, that's where it all is. So you take a picture of it. So then they can determine square footage. They can see that you're not pulling the wool over their eyes. Right? You've got documentation. It's all about documentation. Everything you do for them. Document.
Absolutely. So real quick, because we have about 4 minutes and maybe 2 minutes that you can answer this question, and then you can talk about how people get a hold of you and what your schedule is. So people that do work from home, what are some couple of tips that they need to do for their taxes, or what they can claim, what they can't, like you said, square footage, certain percentage, etc.
So a few years ago, the IRS came out with a simplified method. So basically you put the square footage of your office and the square footage of your house, and then it just figures up but with a simplified method, up to $1,500 of what that home office deduction would look like. Or you can keep track of every penny you spend on that house. If you pay all your bills online, that's not a hard thing to do. Your security system, your lawn maintenance, your water, your internet, all of that. And then it takes a percentage of all those bills, and it takes that as a home office deduction, right? I find that most people, when I tell them they can do the simplified method, they're like, oh, yay. Okay. Because then they don't have to document every little thing.
Right.
They just take the simplified method and it gives them a number, right? Let's just say you and your husband both have your own offices. You have to have your own office. Then you each can take one if you are not a W-2 employee. Okay.
Okay.
Then you can each take a home office deduction, but you've got to each have your own home office. You can't share that.
Can't share that. Okay, very good. We're down to about 2 minutes, Sarah. So please tell our audience again, what are, your company name, where you're at, what things are looking like, what you need to bring, whatever, anything you like to share.
So I'm Sarah Poe with Post Accounting Services. We're in Tequila, Georgia, but we work with people all over the country because you can do Zoom and we've got portals where you can put your documentation and it's safe and people can't steal it and all that wonderful stuff. And then we can review your tax returns through Zoom or over the phone. Or you can come in. There's so many different ways to do that. We typically, if you're a brand new client, I typically like to meet you. I like to ask you questions. I like to learn about you and your family, because the more I know about you and your family, the more I can determine some of the better tax deductions for you. If you just come in off the street and you say, "Here my stuff," and I don't know anything about you, it's hard to determine the best way to do your taxes, right?
Right.
There's so many different things out there that we can do to help you, but if we don't know you and understand your situations, we can't help.
Absolutely, Sarah. Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing your words of wisdom and knowledge with our audience at WCEG Talk Radio. We're grateful to Penny Rogers and the board for this opportunity to serve. This is our third season with Global Legacy and Wealth Building, and we have a great season ahead. Our next talk show is going to be on Tuesday, January 24th. It's our nonprofit show. And with that being said, Sarah, Happy New Year and go dogs.
That's right. That's right.
All right. Everybody have a wonderful, blessed day, week, and we will see you on January 24th. Thank you.